Today I'm reacting to your Crown Jewel 2025 Hot Take. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me over on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. We also include Saturday night's main event in these as well, which by the way, the next one would be Saturday night's main event on November 1st, so keep that in your schedule as well. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And you've still been getting daily wrestling content, even though I'm coming up on the second week of being abroad on the other side of the country here on my Japanese vacation. That's how serious I am about daily videos, all right? Rain, shine, vacation, New Year's, Christmas, it doesn't matter. You get your daily video here. Which, by the way, I understand that this isn't my regular office, but can you guys please stop calling this the casting couch? All right, that's enough. Let's see what you guys sent. Stephanie Vaquette is proving herself as a legitimate champion, and we shouldn't downplay Tiffany Stratton either. She's got a bunch of title defenses under her belt. There was no better way to do it than to have Stephanie Vaquette win. Let me actually take your statement one step further and say that not only was Stephanie Vaquette winning the correct choice, but in my opinion, it was the only available choice, because had Tiffany Stratton won this match, I genuinely believe that it would have done irreparable damage to Stephanie Vaquette's Women's World Championship reign before it even really got going. Here's an interesting little factoid about Stephanie Vaquette's Women's World Championship reign. Did you know that this match at Crown Jewel between Stephanie and Tiffany was Stephanie Vaquette's first singles match ever since she won the Women's World Championship at WrestlePalooza? So imagine she goes out there in her first match as Women's World Champion and she's ending up looking up at the lights, getting pinned and taking a loss. It would have been a terrible look and an awful way to start a Women's World Championship reign, to the point where I don't think you can build a legitimate Women's World Championship reign if that's your first impression. So I think they made the right call. On top of that, like you say here, Tiffany Stratton already has several championship defenses under her belt. She's won several feuds, so her taking this loss here doesn't do anything to damage her already existing championship reign. I will say I'm a little bit surprised that this was a squeaky clean victory for Stephanie Vaquette, not so much as a ref bump or a ref misdirection, nothing, just a straight up clean match, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. But again, I say, not only was Stephanie winning the correct choice, I genuinely think it was the only choice. Props to WWE for booking Crown Jewel in a way that was predictable yet didn't feel phoned in. I wasn't sure if they'd bounce back after the stinker that was WrestlePus Snooze Fest, but they put on 5 great matches, most of which had storylines and actually felt like they mattered. I do think that WWE should get kudos here for taking a lot of the feedback of what was, like you said, a stinker of a show in WrestlePalooza and following it up with what I thought was a genuinely fantastic show in Crown Jewel. It's not easy to bounce back like that. And not only did they bounce back from a terrible show that was WrestlePalooza, they did it on a Crown Jewel, a show that is designed for WWE to just phone it in. And this year they decided to not phone it in, to actually put in some decent effort into building matches that they could genuinely get away with having no build with the Crown Jewel matches. And yeah, sure, AJ Styles versus John Cena didn't have a single second of build, but I promise you, not a single soul on this planet is complaining about that because of how absolutely mind-bendingly good that match was. And yeah, was it predictable? Sure, I would agree. I think the results of this show were, for the most part, fairly predictable. I feel like if you're able to connect some dots as a WWE fan, you could have pretty easily predicted pretty much every single outcome of the show. But I've always preached on this channel for the last several years that predictable doesn't always mean bad. Sometimes unpredictable for the sake of just being unpredictable, for the sake of creating a shock that doesn't actually make sense, is a terrible thing to do. Sometimes, say it with me folks, because we've been saying it for a long time here on this channel, it's okay to let 2 + 2 = 4. Easily the best WWE Premium Live event of 2025 in my opinion. Okay, so I agree that Crown Jewel 2025 was a very, very solid show, and a lot of people are calling this the best show of the year. It's not just me saying it, it's Samir saying it, it's Sports Illustrated that's saying it, but I firmly believe that Evolution was the better show. Both of these shows were like solid from beginning to end. There were no lulls, there were no bad matches. However, you want to know the key difference between Crown Jewel and Evolution? Evolution had 7 matches, so So had Crown Jewel had a couple of extra matches, had they put Damian Priest versus Aleister Black on this card, then maybe I might be on the bandwagon that this was the best show of the year, but I still have to give it to Evolution. Cena versus Styles is the best match of John Cena's farewell tour, and it's not even close. Everyone expected this to be good, but it still exceeded the expectation. I want to focus on that last little bit. It exceeded expectations. I do believe that expectations were high, dare I say. I think that people had way too high of expectations for this match because, well, let's face it, these guys are pushing 50 and they are nowhere near in the same physical prime that they were when they last faced off against each other in 2017. So in my mind, I felt like there was no chance in hell that they were going to be able to replicate the same physical magic that they were able to in their iconic 2016-2017 feud. So I actually had my expectations quite tempered going into this, but I knew it was going to be fun. I knew that these guys were going to find a way to make this special. But what I didn't expect were for them not just to make it special, but to maybe make it the greatest love letter to professional wrestling fans that I've ever seen. Is this the best match of John Cena's retirement tour? I have to absolutely say yes. And I love the Cody Rhodes match at SummerSlam. I love the Randy Orton match at Backlash. I love the Logan Paul match at Clash in Paris. I loved the match against CM Punk at Night of Champions. There's been some really great matches that have really gotten me excited in this John Cena retirement tour, but this AJ Styles match, good lord, this was generationally good if you ask me. So when it comes to expectations, oh my god, yeah, they completely fucking shattered them. Cena versus Styles was the best match of the year. This is going to be a really interesting conversation, especially when we get closer to the end of the year, because I believe from an in-ring perspective, like the physicality, there are better matches, and I immediately point to the women's triple threat match between Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 41, and Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky at Evolution. However, even though I would personally say that both of those matches from like in-ring choreography and from A to B are the better in-ring affairs, I don't think that they're the better wrestling match, because wrestling is more than just about what moves people do. It's about the emotions that the thing that you are watching elicits from you. And I can tell you with confidence that I have never gone through the roller coaster of emotions that John Cena versus AJ Styles put me through. I was laughing, I was smiling, I was tearing up, I was sad, I was getting goosebumps. Every emotion that you can feel while watching a wrestling match, I genuinely felt. Hell, there was a point where AJ Styles, close to the end of the match, hits a clean, phenomenal forearm, and I just accepted that that was going to be the end of the match. I was willing to accept AJ Styles beating John Cena in this match because the match was just so damn good that I believe that AJ Styles deserved the win at one point. But yeah, the emotions that this elicited from me, the callbacks, the nostalgia, and nostalgia is a hell of a drug. Is this a bunch of fan service? You goddamn right that it is. It is cheap fan service at the end of the day. It's cheap, but it was earned fan service. It was earned fan service because these guys earned the ability to deliver fan service, because both of these guys have 20+ year careers with legendary feuds spanning two major wrestling organizations in TNA and WWE. If there's a set of guys that is allowed to rely on nostalgia, if there's a set of guys that is allowed to rely on cheap pops, like doing a bunch of finishers from other dudes, it's these two guys. This is earned cheap pops, ladies and gentlemen, and I loved every second of this fan service filled match. It is now my favorite match of the year. Again, I want to clarify before we move on that favorite doesn't always mean best. WWE did Rio and the Kabuki Warriors dirty by having them fight after Cena versus Styles. I completely zoned out for the tag match. I feel like Cena should be main eventing any show he is on because he saps so much energy from the crowd in a good way. Well, sometimes in a bad way, because that crowd was completely sapped out of their energy and care after John Cena and Brock Lesnar went out there and put on one of the biggest stinkers of the year. So it's not always in a good way. But yeah, I did feel bad for Rhea Ripley, Io Io Sky and the Kabuki Warriors because, by the way, they went on to put on a hell of a match, a fantastic match to the surprise of absolutely nobody because the talent in that tag team match was out of this world. But you're right, having to follow that up, having to follow this roller coaster of emotions that John Cena versus AJ Styles took that arena on, took the millions of people watching at home on, it was hard to be able to reset your brain to go back to watch something that's a little bit more traditional, more of what you're used to seeing on a PLE or on your regular 2025 professional wrestling show. Because what we watch between John Cena and AJ Styles, and I know that this is an overused term, it really was once in a lifetime. We're probably never going to see something like that ever again. So to have to follow this up, it is genuinely an impossible task. But somebody had to follow it up because I actually disagree with you. I don't think that this match should have main evented. I mean, with the power of hindsight, sure, you can say this should have main evented because it was so damn good and people are pretty much exclusively talking about this match. But I think that they made the right call having the men's crown jewel match main eventing Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins because those are the guys that are at the top of the business right now. Those are the guys telling the major stories week in and week out. And John Cena and AJ Styles had literally no interaction going into this show. But yeah, dude, they went on and put on just way too good of a match to follow up. This is the first time Cody used his super crossroads since AEW, and it looked beautiful. By far, Cody belongs in the top 10 in-ring workers right now in WWE. Okay, I want to focus on this super crossroads. You're right, we haven't seen this in the WWE yet. That was an awesome moment. You would think that they would have saved this move for Cody Rhodes to actually win the match with it. I think, personally, it was kind of ridiculous that Seth Rollins kicked out of this damn thing, considering it's this very move that's already put him away 3 times before, and now the super version of it all of a sudden doesn't put him away. I kind of put a question mark on that. Am I being a little bit of a nerd? Am I being a clutching my pearls wrestling nerd right now? A little bit, but come on. I do think that with Cody Rhodes pulling out this move for the first time in WWE, that it should have been to pick up the victory in whatever match that he pulls it out in, don't you think? I do think that we are maybe in an era where these avalanche version of moves are just signatures now because they're getting kicked out from, right? You've got this guy kicked out from, John Cena's avalanche AA is getting kicked out from left, right, and center by pretty much everybody at this point. Anyways, this is just a long-winded version of me saying that Cody should have won with this move if they were going to have him pull it out. Cena versus AJ Styles is the best rivalry of Cena in terms of match quality. They always had brilliant chemistry with each other and always delivered match of the night. Ding, 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 ding. You are on the money. I entirely agree with this statement. I do think that AJ Styles gives John Cena the best matches of his career. I do think that Cena versus AJ is Cena's best rivalry from an in-ring match quality perspective, as you're saying. I don't think it's his greatest rival. I don't think it's his greatest rivalry because that entails storylines and promos and whatnot. And although their matches have been great and even their storylines were solid when they were feuding with each other in the 2010s, I think that the likes of CM Punk, Randy Orton, and Edge have told better stories than John Cena and AJ Styles. But yeah, I'll agree with the sentiment that this is Cena's best rivalry from match quality because it's just consistently amazing every single time. The Roman Reigns and Jey Uso storyline was exciting tonight, but I'm not so sure if it's going to stay great as it's been in recent weeks. I hope I'm wrong, but in about 2 months from now, I don't know if the prestige of the storyline will be better in quality. I do think I see where you're coming from. It's hard to bank on this storyline being as good as it's been consistently moving forward, and I think I know the reason for that. It's the fact that we know that Roman Reigns isn't going to be there on a weekly basis. You say that this storyline has been good and fantastic for the past 2 weeks. Well, that's the 2 weeks that Roman Reigns has been back in the WWE. That's a huge driving force as to why this storyline, why the evolution of Jey Uso has been as intriguing as it's been. If Roman is about to take several months off until after Christmas to continue this storyline, this story in the development of Jey Uso has to kind of go on the back burner for a little while. It's not really going to be able to progress in the way that you probably wanted to. It's not going to be able to progress in the way and provide quality storytelling and intriguing storytelling in the way that it's been able to in the past 2 weeks, because the thing that's made it interesting in the past 2 weeks isn't going to be there, assumably, for the next several months. And that right there is the fundamental problem in having a storyline so heavily reliant on a part-time talent. Doesn't mean the storyline can't be good, but I do think it prevents it from the storyline being consistently amazing week in, week out, week in, week out. Cena versus Styles was not only a phenomenal match, it was a beautiful representation of pro wrestling. I'm not ready for both of them to retire. Many people have used this term already, but let's explore this a little bit more. I do think that John Cena and AJ Styles may have been the greatest love letter to professional wrestling fans that I've ever been able to witness with my own eyes. Because this was a love letter to wrestling fans that are new to the product and to wrestling fans that have been watching for 20 plus years. Because if you're new to the product, cool, you got to see a wonderful match with a super hot crowd between two guys that are about to go out on their soar, John Cena and AJ Styles, that are about to retire. But if you've been watching for 10 years, then you got to see awesome callbacks of John Cena's feuds in the 2010s. If you've been watching for 20 years, not only did you get to see even more callbacks of John Cena's past feuds, but then you got to see callbacks of AJ Styles' feuds in his time in TNA. Essentially, what I'm saying is that this feud rewarded you for watching wrestling as much as you have been. This was a rare match where the more wrestling that you've watched in your lifetime, the more time that you devoted to this crazy hobby of professional wrestling, the more that this match was tailored and targeted towards you. And that in 2025, and really always in WWE, has been a rarity. WWE doesn't want to target those fans. They want to target the casual fan, the greatest common denominator with their fans. But this right here, this match, the more that you are into professional wrestling, the more that it was designed to send you a thank you for being a fan for as long as you've been. And if that doesn't put a smile on your face, if that doesn't want to make you bring a tear to your eye as a wrestling fan that's been watching for 2+ decades, it certainly elicits that from me. Like I said, this was a rare match where I was genuinely to the point where I was about to howl in crying and laughter at the same time. This might be the most important win in Seth Rollins' career. For the first time ever, he is now the one who is truly on top and holds all of the power in WWE. He now has more power than both Cody and Roman Reigns, and he is the main focus of the story now. Everything that you say here is true, and all of these reasons are the reason why Seth Rollins needed to win this match. Had Seth Rollins lost this match, we'd be talking about the complete polar opposite. And not only would Seth Rollins not be the top guy, not only would Seth Rollins not have a bunch of power in the WWE, but we'd also be saying the same things about the Vision, and the future of that faction as well would be in jeopardy. So there was essentially just way too much for us to lose if Seth Rollins were to lose this match, and not that much to gain if Cody Rhodes were to win it. Which basically what I'm saying is that this was absolutely the correct call, left, right, and center, bar none. Seth Rollins needed to win this match. But you're right, this is a fascinating position for Seth Rollins. One of the kind of career complaints that people have had about Seth Rollins, if you're a Seth Rollins fan, is that he's never been the guy. He's never been the guy perched at the very top of the hierarchy in the WWE. There's always been someone else that's always just a little bit higher than Seth Rollins in the pecking order, like Roman Reigns, like Cody Rhodes. But now I think there's a really strong case to be made that the guy at the very top of the iceberg is indeed Seth Rollins. And like you said, it's off the back of this match, which is why this win is arguably Seth Rollins' most important win of his entire career. Because sure, he's won world championships, he's gotten to main event WrestleMania, main event PLEs left, right, and center. He's gotten to win matches with his wife in the past in mixed tag matches. But this right here is the match that for the first time puts him arguably at the very top of the company. The Rio versus Kabuki Warriors tag team match was great. I like the storytelling of the match. I also like the ending where Kairi sacrificed herself for Asuka. Now it will be interesting to see what happens next. I think what happens next is a big question in this feud, mostly mostly because I don't really know what happens next. I feel like the Kabuki Warriors losing this match kind of burns our ability to truly build off of this, to truly make the Kabuki Warriors this super imposing evil force that requires War Games to be able to topple them. You know what I mean? So what's the story here? How do we keep the Kabuki Warriors relevant in this storyline? And I do think it is for the soul of Kairi Sane, because we saw Kairi Sane be willing to sacrifice herself for Asuka. Is Asuka going to thank her for that, or is Asuka going to reprimand her for taking the L in this match? So the storytelling moving forward, the thing that me and you are supposed to care about, is Kairi Sane, which I think is so refreshing that Kairi Sane, I think, is about to become the focal point of this storyline, a storyline that involves two people that generally are the focus of whatever storyline they're involved in Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, so this should be a nice change of pace. WWE has put themselves in a tight spot because John Cena's final match has to be better or come very close to this match with AJ Styles, my favorite match of the night. I'm really going to miss both 2 years from now. Safe to say this PLE was awesome, almost on SummerSlam level in my opinion. Daniel, I think that you bring up a really interesting point, and I'm actually going to build off of your point here. I'm going to say something that might be considered a bit of a hot take. I'm going to say that this should have been John Cena's retirement match. If it was going to be this good, if it was going to be all of these callbacks to John Cena's career, then this should have been how they ended his career. It would have been a wonderful chapter to end the storyline of John Cena's career. It would have been a perfect way to close the book on his career in the WWE. So yeah, I actually kind of agree with you. I do think that they're in a little bit of a jam here, because having to top this is going to be, I think, impossible. Edge versus Orton's, quote, greatest wrestling match ever at Backlash walks so that Cena versus Styles at Crown Jewel 2025 can run. I wanted to include this because I haven't seen anybody reference this match yet, because what John Cena and AJ Styles did was literally just Edge and Orton's greatest wrestling match ever at Backlash in 2020. So go back and watch that match, because I do think it is a fun study of professional wrestling to see them do it in front of no crowd, and then watch Cena and AJ Styles do it in front of a large 10,000 plus seat stadium. Obviously, the context is different because it is John Cena's retirement and there's just so much hype and excitement for that. But you can see that that match between Edge and Orton, as fun as it is, as fun as all the callbacks are, all of the moves that they did from the past, it's missing something, and it was the fans. It's missing that rabid culture of people getting crazy for the nostalgia that they're seeing, that they didn't get to see in person because of the pandemic. Crown Jewel will definitely get a ranking of A from ESPN. Match between Cena and Styles was definitely a 5-star. So I picked this because the review has officially come out, and WWE only got a B from ESPN for Crown Jewel. And I think, if I'm being honest, that is way too low. Funnily enough, for the WrestlePalooza review, I thought that C was way too generous, which kind of goes to show that at the end of the day, these reviews are just opinions, and you're not always going to agree with these people. But I do think that the ESPN review for Crown Jewel 2025 is entirely way too harsh. Like, if I was writing that review, I genuinely would have given Crown Jewel 2025 an A. And maybe I'm a little bit too generous, too liberal, but I also would have given WrestlePalooza an F and not a C. I'd understand if both SmackDown champions won last year, but having both Raw champions win here makes me think that they're going to now have Raw be the A show and SmackDown be the B show. Good job, WWE. I personally think that you are overanalyzing and overthinking this. In fact, let me maybe reframe the information here, and maybe this will make you change your mind. You say that because the Raw champions won, that now all of a sudden Raw is going to become the A show. What if I frame it in the way by saying that if the Raw champions lost, then they would have been absolutely buried and all of their storylines ruined and their championship reigns completely null and void? Because I think that the Raw champions needed to win, which, if anything, highlights that the SmackDown champions are the A champions, if you ask me. Just a different way to frame things. Mostly what I'm saying here is that I don't think that that matters. I don't think that WWE cared about making Raw look better than SmackDown. I think that they cared about making the correct champion look better at this time when they need to look better. There's a lot of praise about Crown Jewel, but something I'm particularly happy with is the direction they're moving feuding with Jey Uso in. I know that I'm not the only person who's been frustrating with how Jey as a character has been regressed in 2025, but his angry side of him is a huge improvement. So I've actually not seen enough people talk about this. I know that not everybody loves what's going on with Jey Uso. I personally am happy to see this evolution of Jey Uso, but one of the things that I don't see enough people talking about is the fact that we're actually getting Jey Uso conversations, Jey Uso promos that don't just entirely rely on 4 letters, 1 word, yeet. In fact, when he does purely rely on that shtick, it feels out of place because now you want to hear about Jey Uso's thoughts. You want to hear what he's feeling, why he's mad, why he's upset, what he feels about character X or character Y, and that is an improvement when you compare Jey Uso just being a one laugh track type of machine by just saying yeet all the time for the better part of the last 12 months. So I agree with you. With John Cena using the walls of Jericho tonight, it 100% confirms that Chris Jericho is coming home. Okay, so I don't think it 100% confirms it, but I do think that it points to the direction that it's more likely to happen than not. John Cena using the walls of Jericho and commentary acknowledging that it's the walls of Jericho, to me tells me that Jericho is returning, because compare it to when John Cena did the homage to Edge. They didn't mention the word or the name Edge or Cope or Adam Copeland. Instead, you had Michael Cole say that it's Roman Reigns, which we knew it wasn't. And we had Corey Graves kind of dance around it, talking about how it was from this iconic Canadian that we all knew was Edge. But with the Chris Jericho walls of Jericho, they didn't dance around the issue. They straight up said it was the walls of Jericho. So yeah, I think Jericho's coming back. I love professional wrestling. I just wanted to leave it off on that because this match is the quintessential reason as to why I love professional wrestling. It's the reason why my podcast is named Wrestling is Cool. I love wrestling. You love wrestling. We all love wrestling. And on this night, John Cena and AJ Styles gave us a pat on the back for loving professional wrestling as much as we do. All right, folks, thank you so very much for watching today's episode of Hot Takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.